Good morning. Since after the Prime Minister had announced the action plan in January, I'm glad a lot of things are moving, and even at the outset, I'd like to say that it is a dynamic process. There's a lot of churning happening. We are at a stage where well-intended steps of the government are all moving forward. Simultaneously, we are hearing a lot of comments on how it should be and how it should not be, which is very welcome. So I want to begin this day-long proceedings more to convey the message, and I'm sure the states, together with our own ministry, will be with me on this, to convey the message that as regards startup, it only benefits us to remind ourselves that we are into this as facilitators. The Prime Minister took the initiative to come up with an action plan, advise all of us to be good facilitators, and that happened in January of this year. But clearly recognizing that the ecosystem had already been built in India. Otherwise, even as the Prime Minister was announcing, India wouldn't be recognized as the third biggest startup locations in the world. So it's as countries' rankings are looked at, India stands third purely on the initiative taken by those enterprising individuals who showed their capacity to be able to be master disruptors and be able to challenge certain existing setup. And now the government has come forward to recognize them, to give them a space and give what little government can do to be out of their way, but to be facilitating. So that spirit is not lost, is something which I want to assure you. Even as many questions are being raised about, I'll be upfront on this, questions being raised about, oh, wow, didn't the Prime Minister during his campaign say minimum government and maximum governance? Is this what you want to do with the startups? Oh no, please. I want this debate to be nicely framed, where we as government are only facilitating you, and as and when public money has to be spent, as and when revenue generation also will have to be looked into, all of us are duty bound to be accountable and transparent. We want to be out of your way, but clearly we also have to be accountable for the little things that we want to do to facilitate. So let's take that in that spirit. I'm sure all of us are in this business of startup, facilitating startup. We'll know, therefore, the pointed issue that I'm trying to address here, and not really pointedly, is on the tax breaks, on the interministerial board, on the certification. Accountability and transparency warrants that if tax breaks have to be given, in which case a certain income for the government will have to be deferred or postponed or foregone, we have to have some kind of an accountable system, and therefore there has to be an interministerial board. How else would I then come to this debate of who needs to get it or who shouldn't? Can I just say everyone gets it, and who is everyone therefore? So I want this debate to be in the spirit of a government which wants to listen, a government which wants to hear, a government which wants to respond, rather than a government which is obstructing the startups. I'm sorry to say that this is the government which honestly wants to facilitate, and you're very welcome to come with a suggestion. So with that said, even at the beginning, I'd like to just put on boards many of the things which all of us have heard already. Third place behind USA and UK in startups, 4,400 technology startups. 12,000 is what we want to reach by the year 2020. And then 72% of all the founders are less than 35 years of age. So youngest nation, youngest startup, every ideal feature, and therefore we do not want to just spoil the environment at all. We want to facilitate it. The Startup Hub, which was, say, launched on 1st April 2016, was launched with the intention of resolving queries and provide hand-holding assistance to startups. I'm happy to say 13,500 queries were received through telephones or emails or Twitter, and we've addressed most of them. Then the Finance Act, about which all of us have done our bit. Finance Act of 2016 spoke about or gave provision for income tax exemption for 3 years in a block of 5 years. And if they are incorporated between 1st April 2016 and 31st March 2019. I know a lot of people have said, what is so sacrosanct about April 2016? Why can't it be earlier? You can always convey your views on this. We are here to hear you. And let's see what we can do about it, but I'm not assuring anything at the moment. These are the laid out norms at the moment. Questions obviously can be asked. Then you know about the 10,000 crore fund of funds which was created. I'm not going to elaborate on that. These are features which I just want to flag off before we get into various levels of discussion. Startups working in areas covered under the list of 36 white category industries have been exempted from all the applicable compliances under the 3 environmental laws. They are like water, the Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Amendment Act of 2003, and the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981. All the 3 are exempted for those who come under the 36 white category industries. MSME secretary is here. I'm glad that a lot of things about MSMEs is also being worked out. I was just asking him that this acquisition fund, which has been brought in last year, whereby patents and technologies which can become patents which can become commercialized through the SMEs are now having a huge big fund through which acquisitions can be made, and that fund at the moment is being monitored by the DIPP. There are requests from MSME that it should actually be with them. We are going to facilitate the process. We are not here to hold on to certain terrain, but if that is a fund, which we should not forget, is going to enable smaller units, innovative units, which want to patent or trademark, register as a trademark, can have the fund assistance being provided to you, through which you can acquire the patent, and if you want to commercialize it, that fund is going to be of great help. That's already been launched and it has to be utilized. We are willing to share more information on that. And then, of course, we have made a provision for relaxed norms on prior experience basis and turnover for public procurement of micro and small enterprises, MSMEs, in the procurement policy of the Ministry of MSME. That is a very important thing, wherein many of the startups have told us, wouldn't you want to give us a provision whereby what we produce can be acquired by the government itself, so that at least a portion of it is guaranteed market, and subsequently the rest of it can find free market sources. MSME has a provision for it, and we've made a provision in the procurement policy of the Ministry of MSME, whereby your products will be procured by the government. Then, of course, this whole discussion on the incubators, I'll just give a few statistics so that we are on board. More than 250 incubators have been recognized by the government to provide recommendation to startups. In order that we augment the existing list of incubators, a module to recognize incubators has been launched. And I'm sure many of you all would be averse to why do we need a module in the first place? Would be a valid question. But then government moves in a certain direction. We like to simplify it, but it moves. And the module has been established. This shall enable incubators to obtain recognition from Government of India, allowing them to issue recommendation letters to startups, 7 proposals for research parks, 16 proposals for TBIs, and 13 proposals for startup centers have been recommended by the National Expert Advisory Committee formed by Ministry of HRD. These proposals shall be implemented in the current financial year itself. I'm not getting into greater detail about what the incubators, letter of recommendations being given by the incubators, because I'm sure that's going to be part of all that you discuss. On the innovation side, innovation being the core for startups, and the protection of intellectual property is something which we take very seriously, and it's imperative. A panel of facilitators has been constituted for providing assistance and not a send-back, providing assistance and support in filing applications for intellectual property rights, wherein the DIPP would bear the facilitation cost. In order to avail IPR-related benefits, rebate and fee up to 80% and free of cost facilitation in filing IPR applications, a startup would be now required to obtain only a certificate of recognition from the DIPP and would not be required to be examined by the interministerial board, as was being done earlier. So that's one rapid change that we've brought in, very much responding to the voice which we've heard. So this is one example where I would like to use to say, this is the way in which we are responding even as we are moving forward with an action plan, because we are hearing voices for which we would like to respond. So I want that option to be utilized by all of you all. Rather than say, oh my God, this has all been laid in stone, cast in stone, nothing is going to change. Please keep giving your inputs and we shall respond. The department has also requested state governments and administration of union territories to set up startup hubs as well as incubators to help startups during various stages of their development. I would like to congratulate Telangana and Gujarat, who have set up T-hubs and iCreate. These are very, very innovative steps, and they've done very well. So I would like to take the name of these two states, and I'm sure they will be good exemplars in this direction. These new reforms, I strongly believe, will lead to a paradigm shift in the way investors, nationally and globally, will look at the environment, India's business environment, and I foresee a bright future for the country where our economic growth is driven by technological innovations, entrepreneurship, and economic diversification. We wish the participation of the startups, the angel funds, and also the government officials who are here will lead to a very interesting day-long proceeding from where we can learn a lot of things. Just want to flag off and inform you that I shall be holding meetings with startup founders on 28th of July, meet with incubators and accelerators separately. I've also scheduled a meeting with educational institutions having incubators or entrepreneurship cells. These are different meetings that I shall be holding within the next 30 days. Meeting with angel investors and angel networks. Differently, a meeting with the VCs and private equity firms. A meeting again has been scheduled with the heads of all industry associations dealing with Startup India. And finally, also meeting with journalists who have dedicatedly been covering the evolution of startup movement. So from my end, there are 7 different meetings which I've scheduled for myself so that we get the inputs and I'll be able to pass the message on to the department so that easing out and minimizing on government interference can happen. So feel free. I hope this day's proceedings will be of great value, and we shall learn from all that you're going to give us. Thank you very much.